G'day, good morning. Something about yesterday's video just turned out really well. That's the Great Reset Part 0 presently. It's a 7-minute short video, probably about 5 minutes of meat and potatoes in there. But it really worked out well, and so as a scientist I want to throw there with you, the camera, with you, the people beyond the camera. I want to learn, right? So as a scientist I've got to do testing. I've got to see maybe what about it worked out so well. And I personally think it was that I was putting my coffee off until after I did the video, and therefore, I was just really motivated to make the video really succinct and therefore powerful. And so I've done the same again. This time I made the coffee. I've got a coffee waiting for me to enjoy. But maybe I'm willing to make this a longer video, mostly because I didn't do one aspect of it, which is the beautiful script I guess I'd written. And the way I'd written it, it was to read while I was on camera. That is, it was like double line spacing and probably better than my typical chicken scrawl text. So I've got a couple of pages, not double line space, so it would be identical in terms of amount of words. And there's probably a lot of really good stuff in there, but I'm not going to use that right now. I think that needs to be typed up, and they need ideally cut around and pasted. I use an analog method of writing where, and I say this to all writers out there, it's a great technique. If you write with your hand, even though you can type quicker, no doubt, and get more words down on paper, when you write with your hand, it actually, the nature of writing engages your whole brain, using the left and the right hemisphere. So you're more capable of, I guess, and certainly if you're one gender, to write possibly the other gender's perspective. You're more capable of perhaps having a whole brain mindset. So I find it's kind of important that if I'm going to write something, I'd like to write using all my faculties. But then to type it up, just being a robot and typing it up, that's not so difficult. So there's probably a few things I need to address in this video. It's become deeply aware to myself in the last week or so. I'm short of 2 weeks, right? And I really believed that if there was going to be a launch to myself, in my eyes, my mental timeline was it was always going to be, and I can't say tomorrow, because tomorrow in language we often use to mean the future, and it's something that's associated with tomorrow, as it's not now, it is in the future, but it would be in the future at any possible time, whereas I quite legitimately believe and I think in Australia we're possibly a day ahead. I think I was doing Valentine's Day well and truly before anyone else was doing Valentine's Day, so my Valentine's Day message yesterday wouldn't be in alignment with the majority of the world. Not that I had a Valentine's Day message, but I really truly believed that it was going to be around the 10-day mark of my doing these videos that I had before I achieved any success with in terms of other people watching it. And it's fair to say that's about where we're at right now, probably approaching that 10-day mark. But I just sort of believed that it was going to be Wednesday this week, and so today it's Tuesday morning. So I feel it's close, but that was just intuitively speaking. And a lot of my writing is intuitively done, and whilst these words are really powerful. In fact, I'll just quote one bit of it, because I know that people, based off these videos, don't have a full grasp of what it is that I'm moving for. And so one of the paragraphs here at the end gives a bit more of an explanation as to aspects of society. And no, it's too good. It needs to be around the rest of the words for it to work. Too good. I mean, here I am judging myself, my own worth, my capabilities. I think you meant to say, how you doing? I'm doing well. I mean, let other people decide if you're doing good. So my fears at the moment is that I'm challenging the existing wealth models, and that's something that they don't tolerate. Right? And really it's a silly notion, because the reason why they have to lock down and fight so hard to keep their money is on the basis that that's exactly what we have to do in the present paradigm, and that dealing with your competitors or holding your position well in the market is the all-important end goal. And all of that falls away in a society where just about all, that everything might be in a position of toppling. And so certainly some markets might be propping themselves up to go, well, we'll do well by this because. But the reason that they need to do well by this, because, is based on the notion that they need more money to handle themselves in future scenarios or to ensure that they've got the ability to continue and go on and go forth. And it really is a complete tie-in with the video that I am trying to put forward, or the pitch, I guess, if you will. And I think in my early videos I watched them and I kept suggesting it's just about to happen. But as I went along, I realised the time it takes for me to establish the basic building blocks means that the idea of getting it all out in one go is something that possibly needs to be done, but I really prefer it as a live Q&A at the time things are going critical mass. At the time people go, okay, you wet my lips, I'm interested. You know, we're all parched, we're all thirsty, but these little drips of water that you've just sort of put as a life force just on the tip of my lips, where I can go, you know what, that tastes good. I mean, not that water really has a taste, but that's something I want, you know. Then if they come to the information willingly, and ideally if it can be put out there at the same moment for many, that's the way forward for critical mass. That's the way forward where we all get on board at possibly the same time, and we gain momentum. And the momentum is really important, because the spiel I've just written there is actually on the basis that we're ready to meet people at the door. And it's almost like advertising spiel, and that's why I don't like writing things down. I'm good at sales, and if I put my mind to it, I can really do that. And so clearly these videos need that. They need that touch, they need that polish, and need some editing, amongst other things. They need little bits chopped out here and there so that the message is tighter. And that's just really reassuring to anyone that's got the patience to endure. Thank you. It's actually reassuring when you look at the rawness of it all, and what happens when it falls on the shoulders of one person. And that's society at the moment. You know, whenever businesses are trying to squirrel away stuff so that they can be better, we're hoping that the best things that all these things we save our money up for and we buy and we pay a lot of money for, you know, we're really hoping that they can be the best. But in the present system, nothing can be the best for a range of reasons. And I mean, consumers, we get tired of not being able to buy the best, and we get tired of working hard to exist in a society that doesn't prop us up, and all this tiredness, all this fatigue, eventually, I mean, if you've got a tired society and a fatigued society, let's just say we're not sailing the ship well, you know, as good as we could be. And we do need a subtle redirection, or a giant redirection en masse, where we do it all together. But in doing so, it props up the current businesses, you know, and I'll be specific. Monsanto, when they hear me talking about growing food with life force and good nutrients, you know, that's one of the big industries on our planet, and they might feel threatened. You know, I've explicitly said time and time again that I want to roll out into all different world markets and use lots of different modelling, you know, and so in my eyes, I've got a dividing line, say a monorail, and I've got suburbia on both sides of that, and slightly different, and because people are electing the groups they wish to be in with, you know, everyone gets to elect all sorts of things, and it sets up exactly what they're interacting with, and I think there's a sense of romance to that without you declaring what your isms are, saying, oh, I need to hang out with people of these demographics, right? No. It's like one of those employment type tests or the counsellor at school might have had you to do to find out what's the right vocation for you, and you tick all the things that are relevant to you as a personality that you find enjoying. And when you do that at a societal level and you have people elect, you know, this is what I want, 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 and then all of a sudden you find yourself in a community of your close dwellings nearby filled with people that want all the exact same things. Certainly, I mean, you know, certainly, if those exact things you've elected for is that you can have people of any religion and any from any world area in your zone, and then you realise, wow, all these people have the important stuff to me in common with me. And I think the nature of finding out down in your local area, at your commons, for example, and walking your dog or pet, you know, some shortcuts, can be done. That there's probably going to be a few icebreaker moments where people just look and laugh and really acknowledge, wow, you know, we have these things in common. And I mean, humanity, we've probably got more in common than we have to differentiate us. When it comes down to it, there's probably ways that when we elect all the things that we want that are important to us, and we're really saying to people, these are what matter, we kind of cut through a lot of the noise, and we kind of get down to the crux of it. So I gathered today's video, which is intended to be short. I wasn't going to do one. I spent an hour, twice as long as I normally do in meditation, and I think I just didn't feel that I was going to be in my best form or shape, and so like every video. But I've gotten a little bit of pride, not necessarily an ideal energy or emotion, but I'm starting to feel that I'm doing a bit better with these videos. I certainly feel I've made friends with the camera, and I'm probably stammering a bit less ums and ahs maybe, and the intention, you know, whether you say it's a little bit of practice, and I've gotten a bit better, but I realise there's a lot more refinement in myself that needs to be done before I'm willing to put myself, before I make materials that are good for the masses. And so at the moment I realise I'm reaching out to a very limited group of people that are willing to try and sift through this, to try and find information, but to reassure the big companies. Right, because they'll put up with anything. If there's a threat to them, they'll just pay somebody to sit there and watch my videos and take notes, and then take everything out of context, and then go away going, oh, he's a threat. And it's like, oh, I'm a threat in the existing paradigm. If I was to do some conceptual rollout that I've pitched that might be valid in an aspect of Australia, or might be aspect in one direction of my, you know, from my mass transit line, that we might have farming and agriculture going in one direction that uses, you know, again, modelling, scientific modelling, uses certain principles in play. And in a different direction, I use altogether different principles in play. And you've got to remember, if I'm trying to reclaim in the most arid of lands, I mean, it's not a very forward-thinking Monsanto employee if they can't figure out that, you know, maybe some of their products would be ideal. But because I want to roll out in all world markets, and ideally as quickly as possible, and breaking new ground and reclaiming land that might not be of high value at this point in time, the need to work with all the biggest industry players is, I mean, that's a phenomenal understatement. And if my proposition is to bring about life, we'll actually end up nurturing growth. For example, most people are hesitant to create a family on the basis that what future can they bring that child, or the state of the world. And so in a growing population, we actually need to have more aspects to offer, more options, if you will. But I do think that there are ways, and it comes down to what's the best we can have. There's a video that's not on this channel. It's separate to the Great Reset videos, and it's pitching this concept of world peace. If I had power that's beyond what I can perceptually pitch, you know, this step becomes available. And the reason I don't add it to the Great Reset videos is I want people to believe I'm not just a dreamer, and I'm not just pitching some wild, zany idea. It's not true at all. The idea I can pitch, you know, the Amish are doing it. You know, I want to offer the Amish +1. You know, offer something that might be evolved off the best that the world can presently offer, and offer it en masse. But we're at a time where we can do that, and we can all jump on board. And if the really altruistic jump in, if the people with all the money pitch down, then this other video I've done, which talks more about ultimately, you know, what would be the ideal version of this. And that would be that we take the wealth in the world, with a lot of it stockpiled. A lot of those people have stockpiled it, they can't spend it on anything better. And for anyone who's in a CEO position that's got to make their company make more money, you know, at the end of the day, it's to keep you in the competitive market. Well, if your business is going to go on, a lot of these needs to be exiting competitors drops right off. But what we find is, and just to follow that on, we need more industries. You know, we need more existing infrastructure that can actually churn things out, because we want to rapidify the pace of being able to live and to grow and to develop. But if we had lots of money, I mean lots and lots of money, it's in this other video, then we've got the ability to go in and remunerate all the existing businesses, all the existing sciences, all the existing laboratories that have done incredible study, and to buy their knowledge, to buy their research, to pay their patents. And in that video I allude to the fact that we also need to pay their patents going into the future. You know, you can't just put a monetary value on it right now. But there's a lot to that. It's not a simple concept. It's not something I can just fly by or pass by in a few sentences here. So what happens when we get access to that pooled knowledge? The notion that our science for any given business is making products that no longer have to only be part of a product because they haven't got access to breakthroughs that are so relevant and so needed. And so often they've gone out and they've made their own scientific breakthroughs in order to stay in the market. You know, that's what we find. A lot of the players that have exited didn't have these incredible things to bring, but they probably did, and they probably got bought up. So probably there's lots of patents. Some of them are just sat on and buried because they're better than, you know, having to retool your you know, now that you've bought up said company, retooling your business to make said product. You don't need to do that anymore. Now that you've bought them up, you can just bury said technology. But there's probably a lot of things that we could bring back and about. And so people then feel threatened. Well, no, we need, you know, we've invested in oil, and so we need products that use oil until we've made our money out of said sectors, you know, because we're invested in this, and we've got, you know, the depth of just how much everything's interconnected. And it's like, yeah, no, we can acknowledge that. We can. There are ways to make sure that everybody recognises that they've got remunerated wealth, something that really acknowledges just how much money they have in the existing system, and the magical numbers on a screen to indicate that they've also got more wealth, you know. But ideally, if those players are as smart as they are and they know how to make their money make money, then they know to get on board with this as quickly as possible, because I've already indicated that it's the initial investments and any of the workers that wish to work and really give more than they take. Any money that's in early, and probably a little bit more of a loading based on an hourly rate, because you want that to be the number one thing, because that then limits in a total way how much any one person can make at any one time. You know, so it stops after we've got initial investments and people bringing money in, and so that props up everybody in the existing world before this new paradigm comes in to be wealthy. Right? If you've got existing wealth and you've brought that in, then you're going to be more wealthy than just people who start off. And so you're going to be a little bit ahead in the race towards extreme wealth in the new model as well. And certainly people with massive amounts of money stockpiled in will own whole suburbs and will have elected their own friends and whatnot. And whole valleys, domed over valleys and air quality control, you know, a quality of life that's just beyond anything that we can roll out in the current paradigm that I'm pushing for. In a first wave for people that are just earning based on an hourly wage, you know, there'll be incredible quality of life there, but it's the future generations that will be the ones that will come into this model, and so there'll be inheritance for them in their own family tree. There'll be things that will allow them to inherit wealth, certainly, but we need to understand that we're not just competing against our existing brotherhood of man. That this notion of trying to squirrel away more wealth than them, you know, is that everybody on the planet right now, if we were to all choose or elect to go towards world peace, and all choose and opt towards this new model where we all live really well. I mean, I want to give examples of how it comes about. I want to use terms, but if I use them in throwaway sentences to sell other concepts, then people can again quote me out of context, or they can see little bits and it looks like it's unthought out. So. Look, I do want to do a live video. I do feel I'm around the right time where this might just take off. It might be there's some little nuggets in my source material. It might just be that 1 in 1,000 people that's got the patience or the boredom to just sit through all my material. You know, maybe some finicky person out there with really good recall is listening to my materials and sewing it all together and going, you know what, there's a solid model underneath all of this, and that all of these videos combined are starting to really give a lot of aspects that all prop each other up in ways that really, really work. But for the really big companies out there, I'm no threat. You're missing me. If you don't see me as this person that wants to tie together everything we've got and make use of it in a way that's just better, because that's what I wish to do. And that's where it's not really just me. I want to put together a board of people, because there's only finite hours in a day that I can do admin. So I need a lot of people. We need to work together as a team, and we need to set up an admin that just works off a mission statement. And at the end of the day, it's quality of life. You know, if you're aligned with a business whose ultimate purpose is just to remove quality of life from everybody on this planet, okay, you might be challenged. But given the rollout time to get into every single country, given the time it's going to take for me to get you know, more than half of society, you know, more than 80% of society. I mean, you'll still have customers. More than 90% of society, more than 95% of society, you know, including developing nations, you know, like for that to all be in one camp, that then isn't buying your absolutely against life product, you know, I think you've still got a pretty long innings. You can probably still retool yourself towards away from that, and I think that would be what I would be wanting to do to work with you, is to use what you've got. And let's face it, in a lot of the destructive things, there's quite often a solution, there's quite often patents, or there's quite often studies or science that might be practical towards turning it around a bit or modifying it a little bit and making it useful. And I think we really, none of us can see it because we're not in the new paradigm yet, but we can work together. We can get industry on our side. We can get the big dollar stockpiles working for us, because we can have the people at the top recognise that, and if not recognising because they want to move towards world peace, but recognising because they want to move away from the fear that is about to come about them in their own society, where they realise it doesn't matter how much money's in the bank if everything's about to topple. You know, they realise they're probably about to lose a lot. Okay, well, instead of losing a lot, invest it in a really safe investment that will actually net you dividends and remunerate you in ways. And if you want to find out what that is, talk to me. On the Patreon, there's a number for people who have more money than sense, okay, that have the ability to just, you guys, you won't have the time. I say guys, you people, you families, you companies, you corporations, you don't have the time to waste trying to wait for an email back from me. You know, there's a Patreon chat level that's just ridiculous. It's not set ridiculous at the moment because no one's chatting to me, but after the day I go viral, it'll multiply by a factor of 10, that number, because that'll be the minimum amount of time to get contact with me. I'll be busy. I'll be very busy. At the moment, I'm not so busy, so that number's set reasonably low, and it's just set as a cut-off so that regular Joe Blowers don't feel common, like the ability to book a phone call from me, but that industry might. And that for them, the ability to buy just that little bit of a jump in time, rather than waiting 24 hours or 48 hours for me to get back via an email channel, or a week or something if it goes crazy all of a sudden, or more. You know, so maybe I won't have an admin to help me sift through the emails. But if you want to get in contact, like, and even if you don't want to back my vision, what you'll find is that on these videos you might realise that, yeah, I'm a deer in headlights, but that I'm not an unintelligent person, and that what I can bring to any industry in terms of ideas and suggestions. And I've been, I have been reaching out, and please, if you're working for Sony Interactive Entertainment, if you're working for Microsoft, I have reached out, but obviously through ineffective methods, and I get stuck at your front of house, possibly. And they're probably doing the right thing of sifting through, you know, there's probably a lot of correspondence. To the TV networks, I think maybe it was a Patreon video yesterday, but I was reaching out, saying I want to make media for you. And I think you'll find that the first players that get on board will be the first people I'm going to commit to, or make, you know, if I need to make contracts in play to provide materials, then I will. But I've got some great pitches, and it's because I'm of the belief I've got a large workforce. And so if you want call centre staff to support your product, call centre staff who are happy, call centre staff who are trained up and aren't just quitting all the time, and that attrition leads to lack of knowledge, and that leads to a dissatisfaction in your end users, because they're always dealing with a tier 1 agent who can't really help them, and wastes their time and has to escalate. You know, for all the ways that I can improve existing systems and offer a better quality of life, because at the end of the day, being the end user that gets to ring in and gets a level of service that is beyond what we currently have. And I've been trained by the best. I was through Teletech, and they did Microsoft, they did the FBI, you know, they did the CIA, they did all the biggest, the people who need the best call centres, you know, and the ISO 9002 rated, you know, if any one of our call centres dropped below a minimum level, we lost that rating across the globe. And I was one of their best international agent. And I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet. I'm just trying to say that I know how to do these things and make them work. And I've seen the systems, and I see how that they need to be done in order to provide the end customers a better service. And I can deliver on that. You know, I mean, I did every single phone call, got my 100% quality assurances every time. But I couldn't help but, as a human being, reflect that some of our for the clients, you know, not any of the companies I just mentioned, but for some of the big clients, some of the metrics that offered pay rewards weren't necessarily in alignment with the end users, you know, and that means we really need to rethink things from a total redo, yeah, because obviously we want a betterment for all, and I think companies that align with that, and any companies that seem to be aligning with me early in, are instantly buying themselves some goodwill from the general public. Even just placing that phone call and having me acknowledge that this company rang me is, you know, if that's the bare minimum that comes out of that call. If anybody wants me to look at their business, give an overview, you know, if I need to set up a private enterprise right now so that I can take myself out of the workforce and spend more time on these videos, I can allocate myself a certain amount of time, and I've got a team ready to go with some of the best programmers and some of the best actuaries, and we can really come in and we can overview your business, and from a point of view of a holistic paradigm, if you will, from a point of view of ways to streamline your structures or just make things more successful. And they're not necessarily under the paradigm I'm selling in these videos, but just using clear intelligence that's been refined over many years towards, you know, ways of doing things. And I've looked at a lot of business sectors, and you can see that, okay, I'm not presently a CEO, or if I am, it's a very small company, but I've certainly done a lot of roles, and I can see the roles that are needed to be done, and I think there might be something to this, but I've pitched in all these other videos. These videos aren't about me, and I know I'm not the best person at these things, but I can certainly be a team player, and that's what I wish to do. And there's a lot to be done, but I'm still doing these videos on the basis at the moment nobody's on board, so we're still generating that initial admin team, if you will, to generate, you know, we've got to have a little bit more people beyond us and we wish to be initially, you know, front of house, live by role modelling, and to be handling these calls or handling these people wanting to then join us for our wider scale workforce, and just setting up this initial step so that we can welcome in people to an Amish +1 level of living. You know, a lot of roles are needed, but none of that's done, and so these videos are very raw, and these are not the training modules that you'll find in said structure. But look, I look forward to engaging with people more and making more meaningful moments of communication and making more progress and more, you know, in a way that's going to work. And these videos aren't necessarily it. These are really just to wet one's lips. And I assure you that the water is good quality. I assure you that the water is life force. It is with love, and it's going to be very nurturing. And I really want to get there together. So please, if you're here right now, then you are my most valuable person ever, because you know, it's more than anything else I've been getting so far. And even if you just like, because I don't think, you know, I agree these videos aren't like worthy necessarily, but if you'd like, you're communicating directly with me, because I doubt that the metrics I see in terms of zeros, and sometimes I get a like with 0 watches, and for that to have happened at all tells me that possibly people are being able to see bits of these words. So please communicate with me a little bit, because that would do wonders for me, because I've got scripts that are more relevant for the stage where people are actually starting to watch me, and the chances are, if even a handful of people watch me, that there might be a video passed on, and then there might be, and I've seen it happen, where it just takes off. And I'll wind this video up. This is maybe why I'm a little bit ego-based, but I did a survey once, drawing on the best I had with psychology and just knowledge, and knowing that people, you know, like to think about themselves and reflect on themselves. So I was just using it, and it was an early Facebook tool back in the day, and you could make essentially questions, and then it was like a table, matrix, if you will, that you could spit out answers based on questions that people had put in. And in school I used to do this in my free time. I used to make this book, and I'd come into class, and even kids in the school I didn't know would be like, oh, can I get the book today? And it would have all sorts of questions and whatnot. It was just something I saw at boarding school. At boarding school it was all blokes like myself, and in the library, the most borrowed magazine at recess and lunch, and I didn't go to the library very often, but it just amazed me that it wasn't Cleo, but it was like Dolly, or like these women's magazines that the guys would be reading, and they'd flip through, and they liked doing the questionnaires and stuff. And it might have been more than that. I know one guy put a pen pal ad in, and he made the mistake of saying, I will respond, guaranteed response or something, and I'm like, look,